before we do get into the information we're going to be presenting you with, this past January, we did sadly lose one of our club members, Arune Pruthi, in a tragic accident at Cowell's Beach. He's been with us for many, many years, absolutely devastated when we got the news. So we just want to take just a brief pause just to send him our thoughts. An incredible kid and sorely missed, really is. So everyone's on the mute. Again, please use the chat function to speak to Travis if you have any questions as we go through. You'll be able to answer some of them as we go through the presentation, but at the same time, you'll be able to relay those questions onto me towards the end. And he's on his phone. I'm also on mine just next to me. So if there's anything that goes wrong, internet, if I cut out, he's also going to be able to reach out to me through the phone. And like I said, the presentation is going to be provided to everyone. And we'll try and get through as much of this as possible to begin with, just so that we can give you as much opportunity as possible to ask us any questions. So first of all, my name is Dyer Redwood. I'm Executive and Sporting Director. I've had the opportunity to meet most of you, coached most of your children as well. I'm currently studying for my Master's in Advanced Performance Football Coaching through the Football Association of Wales and the University of South Wales, and have my honours in sports coaching. I have my UEFA B senior and youth license, multiple qualifications throughout the US, and I've also been very lucky to visit, actually along with Travis, a number of elite academies throughout Europe. That's just kind of give you an idea of where our thoughts and ideas come from. We don't make things up. We heavily rely on theory, applying that theory, but also challenging the theory as well to make sure we do what's right for the individual player. So it's always going to be a player-centered program. So just before we start, just to kind of frame where we're going with everything, just take a moment to look at this tree. And if you do have a pen and paper just close to you, having looked at this tree just for a couple of seconds, draw yourself your own tree. I'll give you about 20, 30 seconds. If you don't have a pen and paper, it's not a problem. Just visualize a tree in your mind. Like I said, we'll give you a couple of seconds while do this. You've always got a bit of time to grab that pen and paper. But just take a quick look at the picture on your left-hand side and draw yourself a tree. Give you maybe another 10 more seconds. For the artists in the group, you may need a little bit longer. You can finish your picture later. Okay, so be honest with your feedback, and you can put feedback into the chat function if you like. What does the tree that you drew look like, or the one that you just visualize in your mind? Does it just look the same as what you see on the screen? Did you remember to add the roots? So when you look at the tree we presented, there's no roots in it. We're easily persuaded by what we see in front of us. And we see this a lot within youth soccer. We don't always know the background history of not just the players. We don't know the background history of the staff involved in the program. We don't know the background history of what the club actually stands for. So it's important that we always have an open mind. It's something we need to do with every single player. It's something that, as the other adults involved in the equation, the parents, we should always be doing at every moment. Keep ourselves an open mind, and we shouldn't really be comparing one player to another. There is so much that goes on underneath those roots. And again, those roots are what we often seem to forget about. And the reason being is every player is like a snowflake. There are no two identical snowflakes. Not to go too deep into snowflakes, and always please correct me if I'm wrong, but each snowflake is exposed to a slightly different environment, a slightly different condition. So even if they do start out looking fairly similar, or two identical crystals, they'll never end up looking identically the same towards the end. It's because that environment is what helps create them. And every single individual player is going to be affected in a different way within that environment. Again, going back to that background. So it's important that we don't compare players against each other. We look at that individual player and we look at how they grow. This will kind of go through because most of you will be familiar with us. We kind of did a lot of changes back in 2015, added a little bit more substance to the program, changed a few things around within our curriculum. But you can see our mission statement and our vision. All this is posted on our website. We're about the human being. It's great that you have soccer players development through the program. If you look at our seniors, the ones who just graduated and the year before that, exceptional soccer players. Look throughout all the younger age groups, we have a lot of exceptional soccer players. But what is very important is the human beings they become. And having coached the senior teams for the past 2 years, that includes that season which was hindered by COVID, I can't fault any of those players for human beings that they are. Excellent individuals, great morals, excellent values, and you can see how they look out for one another. So how we affect the human being is far more important than how we look to affect the individual soccer player or how a team may perform. So we need our core values to be able to guide us within our coaching. So even our coaching sessions, it's not as simple as putting down a few cones, saying we dribble in this direction, strike a ball, now run over there. We need to implement our core values into the way we coach. So when you look at Fremont, and this is where we got our core values from, the Fremont as a community, we want to recreate Fremont within our style of play. When you watch a Fremont team, especially the olders, because they're coming towards that end of development, but don't get confused by thinking this is the end of the journey. This is just the end of the journey with our soccer club as players. We'd love to see them come back as coaches in the future, be the ones to take the club on even further. But they're towards the end of the journey with us as a player. So what we've got to look at is how we've affected that person, but how do they play? Do they show creative moments in their actions? Are they innovative? Do they find solutions? Do they think for themselves? Do they feel empowered to do their own thing? Especially around set piece. There's nothing worse than when you coach against another team and the coach is shouting on. We had this one incident with one team, and this was with the girls 2 seasons ago. The coach was shouting triangle, pair, orange, green. And we were just looking at each other thinking, what on earth is going on? And these are predetermined movements from a set piece. We'd rather see the players be the ones that get creative. I don't know if any of you watched Wales throughout the Euros, but we needed to beat Turkey in the final game. Last minute, we're 1-0 up, and Gareth Bale, instead of taking the ball into the corner and keeping it there, he just dribbled into the area. He used that kind of innovation, that creativity, and thought for himself, not to do a regular set piece, just to dribble the ball into the penalty area, and they scored from it. Similar thing to what we want to see the players do. Can they think for themselves? Can they be creative? And more important than anything else, can they have fun when they're doing it? Striving towards excellence, but having fun, enjoying what they do. Now, as you do go through the different age groups, there are certain behaviors that are expected of all the players. This is also aligned with the different stages of development. So through that fundamental stage of the very youngest ones, we want to see how they present themselves. This is what was missing before 2015, 2016. We didn't really have these non-negotiable behaviors aligned. And it takes time to really get them, and a lot of them just get grandfathered into the program. But how do you present yourself? Then we look at the specific stage. Is there a willingness to compete? That doesn't mean go out and win every game, but do you compete with yourself? Do you look at yourself and try and find ways in which you can develop and grow as that individual, as that soccer player? Do you challenge those around you within your team to try and become better? Again, not just as a soccer player, but as an individual as well. And now at this older stage, we want to see, are you willing to give yourself to others? What we mean by that is, you're now the oldest. Every player in the U19, you're now the oldest players in the program. Can you be a role model to those younger players? Because these younger players coming through one day will fill your position and will also be looking to make it into the first team setting. And can you give back to the club and the community? Are you an active participant in the continued growth of the club and its community? And what we've done as a club, we've taken sponsorship and twisted it. We're not looking for someone to pay us money to be on our jersey. We're donating to the Tri-City Volunteers to have their logo on our jersey. And we're going to make sure that we do our food drive annually every Thanksgiving. And we want the players to be involved in that, so they know how important it is to be part of their local community. So moving on to structure, you guys are towards the very top end of our club structure. Some of you have come through different pathways. Some of you have played the recreational soccer for a little bit longer. Some of you joined in with a competitive program for as young as the U8 training pool. I think this is the age group where we first really had that training pool. It was very new at the start. Obviously, it's very new at the start. It's probably one of the silliest things I'm going to say tonight. But what I mean is, it was a different kind of concept to where we separated rec and comp a little bit to those players who wanted to maybe play just a little bit more continuously throughout the year. That's a different conversation altogether, and specializing at a younger age, and something we don't really encourage. But what we did is we made sure that it was player-centered, where it was all about play, making sure players are involved in play actions more than anything else, not stood in lines, not just striking the ball repeatedly, but actually involved in play. So as you can see is, because some of you will have younger siblings as well who maybe want to come through the program, we have two different pathways, but also additional programs throughout the club, including our soccer camps, which Travis right now is actually running. And we have a number of U19 players, actually some U16 players as well, volunteering in that program or even working part-time in that program. And something else we're trying to do is get into the elementary schools and provide free soccer to all the kids throughout Fremont. That was a little bit more challenging because we do have to go through the actual district with that one. But there's always an opportunity. What we want to try and do is always create an opportunity for kids to be able to play. But it also gives all you as players an opportunity to be involved as well. So as you noticed, there's two different team names in this age group. We have the seniors and we have our ID. Teams are traditionally always based on the birth year, obviously by gender, and then we assign them to the team. The seniors are what we consider those players who have been identified and represent what the Fremont game model is. Display high potential in their soccer ability and also their individual player elements. ID is those players that we've identified as showing development in those key elements. It's a little bit different than U19 in that the way it's structured in the younger age groups, where we used to have elite, premier, blue, and we've done away with that in the younger age groups as well. We don't believe, because we have challenged that notion of having players be considered elite at such a young age group is detrimental to them. In the U19s, being in the ID program, it means you're developing. I think for too long it meant that if you're on what's considered a second or third team, that you weren't good. That's a terrible way of looking at it. You're still youth players, even at U19. Identification means you've identified that you are a player that does show talent. And so if a player in the senior team was to get injured, for example, we're looking for players in the ID teams to step into that role. Where it's a little bit different is in the younger age groups, it was always, if you're shown a rate of development, then you move into whatever the next pro team is to challenge you that little bit more. Here, it's a little bit more position specific. So if you're a centre back and the centre back on the senior team gets injured, we're going to be looking at the centre backs in the ID team. If it's a striker, we'll be looking at strikers in the ID team. So not only are we looking at rate of development, we've also had to look at how we structure those teams in the U19. The purpose of us doing this is so we can try and provide the best opportunity and experience to what senior level soccer would be like. As one thing which is missing badly in the US is a proper vertical pathway for youth soccer players. You've only got 24, I believe, MLS teams now. And again, correct me if I'm wrong with those numbers. In a country this big, to only have 24 professional clubs, which can sustain professional soccer, is very poor. So you have very few vertical pathways. There's a number of other leagues that are popping up, and everyone's an academy these days. So it's difficult to try and wade your way and pull your way through all the noise. But there's very few opportunities to get that experience. You don't have many Sunday leagues around you. You can't just go play for Fremont in an adults league, in a men's or a women's league, like many other countries. So what we want to do with this U19 team is try and give you that experience. So you get to experience that within your youth, what it was like to play for a senior level team or a U19 kind of environment where you'll always be given the opportunity when it presents itself. So how are we going to structure this for the U19s is we've done away with the U17s. So you'll notice the 2005s are part of the U19 age group. So some of you may be thinking, well, my child's only maybe 15, 16 years old. Our belief is if you're good enough, you should be playing with players around you of similar playing ability. If you've showed a higher rate of development, there's no reason why you should be playing on a senior team. We have to consider the social development, the psychological development of an individual player at the same time. So we can't just say, right, he's good, put him there, or she's good, put her there. It has to all merge together. It's all interconnected. The psychological, the physiological, the social, the technical, the tactical, it's all connected. But what this allows us by doing away with U17 is it gives more opportunities for those younger players who have showed a good rate of development to be able to come into the U19. And the reason why we've invited the OS experience to this presentation, even though they've had their presentation already, is so they can get an idea of what's to come next, because it does change slightly. What you generally find is, yeah, most of the senior ages, the 2003s, probably take up those senior spots. But we do try to balance it. We try and keep as close to 50-50 as possible. So that means ID1, ID2 are most likely going to be more 05, 04s. There are quite a few 03s, but we have a very large age group throughout all three teams in the age group. And for the girls, we carry the one senior team, but we take a larger roster because we want to make sure we give as much opportunity to everyone as possible. So you are within the club program, we'll have weekend games. The senior teams, boys and girls, will be playing in the State Cup. And both the boys and girls senior teams also go to the College Showcase, the November nights in Carlsbad. Every team in this age group will follow the same practice structure. They'll work on individual areas of the game, but also tactical work based on our game model. So the whole weekly schedule completely changes to what you experience from U16 and younger. So just to quickly touch on the November nights, because this is a question I've received quite a few times, is what is it, when is it, how does it work? So what we do is we take our senior teams, the boys and girls, into Carlsbad. We leave early hours Friday morning. We have a game usually around early afternoon, sometime on Saturday, and an early game on the Sunday. So we have 3 games over those weekends, one day at a time. So for those of you who know me for quite a while, I can't stand tournaments. I believe it's detrimental to players. It increases risk of injury. It doesn't provide you with the exposure that people talk about. But tournaments are a fantastic moneymaker for clubs. We run them ourselves because it keeps our training fees low. Facility usage is going up through the roof. Those costs go up all the time. The number of insurances you need keep increasing all the time. So what the tournaments do is they provide clubs with an opportunity to make income and provide, hopefully, more affordable programs for the players in their community. So the reason we do this November night showcase is because more than anything else, it provides an opportunity for players of this older age who are looking to go to college very soon to get a little bit of independence. Now, it's not to say we're going to take them to San Diego, drop them off and disappear. What we do, though, is allow them a little bit of free time. They can go to the mall. We set them times where they need to be back to check in, times where they need to be on the bus, and we set rules. If they're not on the bus on time, then they have to stay at the hotel. If they're not in bed by time, they won't start or in their rooms in time. They won't get to start the next game because they need to start learning a bit of accountability. I think it's alarming throughout youth, not just soccer, but youth sports and probably just as the youth landscape in general. We have children at 17, 18 years old going off to college that have never spent a night away from their home, have never cooked their own meal, have never had to fend for themselves. That's a massive thing to ask them to do going off to college with all this freedom to be able to survive on their own. So this is just a little, obviously they're not going to be trying to cook their own meals in the hotel. This is just a little kind of introduction to, you got to make sure you're responsible for your stuff, timekeeping, and you're responsible for others. So they'll work in groups. There's 3 match balls they need to look after, and they'll support each other as well. Boys have to watch the girls' games, the girls have to watch the boys' games. The trip we did before COVID in 2019 was absolutely incredible. It was the best weekend of my life, without a doubt. Absolutely phenomenal. The bus ride into San Diego, the bus ride back, the 3 days of just how they all come together, all the kids come together, supporting each other. The girls would come off this one game. I remember absolutely exhausted. I'm like, oh, where's all the match balls? And to be fair, the boys already collected them all, were ready on the bus and clapped the girls in. And the girls responded exactly the same. And the tone was set for the weekend. It was phenomenal. And Travis was on the trip with us. And it was brilliant. It seriously was one of the best weekends of my life. We will need a few chaperones to come with us as well. So parents, you don't have to travel, but we will be asking one or two to come with us. But the players will stay together in one hotel, 4 to a room, travel to games with us. One big collective group. Great fun, great experience. A little bit back now towards the soccer part of it. Even though we're now in the U19s, we're all about the performance. It's important that we realize we're not saying now you must go out and win at all costs. It is about performance. I think it's an incredible quote from Johan Cruyff. Teams don't learn, individuals within the team learn. Development is a personal process, even when conducted in a team environment. So don't worry about the team that you're on. You're there to try and to grow as that individual, and we treat every single individual the same. We want you to grow and be the best that you can be. We are, though, working against a culture which doesn't really pay much attention to development. We talk a lot about it. We say we're going to develop, but it's an adult world. So youth sports being overrun by the adults. The adults are making the decisions that suit best for the adults, not so much the youth players. So we're going to break this up here with just a quick quiz. Again, for those of you who've been in the meeting before, try not to give the answers away. So I'm just going to put up the poll. We'll just give you 2 minutes because I appreciate we're going a little bit over than what I thought we'd do, so a little bit behind on time. So I've just launched the poll for everyone. Here we go. So me and Trav are out of this. So this is for everyone. Just drop in your answers. It's a multiple answer. And let's see what your current thoughts are. This gives us a good little bit of framing to move forward with the presentation. No cheating, no Googling. It's always interesting to see how many people do this part of the poll, how many people are still paying attention or they've gone and sat in front of Netflix. Okay, so we got 50% have responded. So we'll give another just maybe 25 seconds. We'll get to a minute and a half. I apologize. The baby monitor was on. I didn't realize Mike can hear his Ocean playing with his cars. That wasn't me making those noises, I swear. Okay, let's count down 5 more seconds. You've got 6 people who haven't answered. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's not a bad response rate. Oh, there we go. Last few just snuck in towards the end. Okay, so I'm just going to share these results with everyone. Right, now let's get to the answers. So what this will hopefully do is kind of align where our expectations are and maybe add a little bit of depth to the information we've gone through. So how many youths play organized sports? So in the United States, it's close to 45 million youths between 6 and 18 participate in some form of organized sports. That is massive. It's a huge industry, and it's great to see how many youths are out there playing sports. So it's a great positive start with these questions. And it looks like quite a few people got that right as well. Actually underestimated. There's actually far more people than we realize playing youth sports. Unfortunately, though, when we start to look at the annual dropout rate between 10 and 19-year-olds, there's 24% annual dropout rate consistently from 10 to 19. So basically what that means is every year, 25% are dropping out. So when you consider there's 45 million up to the age of 18 that participate in these sports, that's alarming. I wonder how many are actually playing between 6 and 9 for it to be at 45 million 18. So basically what's happening by that snowballing every single year, that 25% every year, a lot of the teams that start out, there isn't a team by the time you get to 19 years old. That's a very worrying statistic. One a little bit more specific to this age group. What percentage of players go on to college soccer from high school? Now, 37% have ambitions of becoming a college athlete. That's quite a decent number. But only 5.6% of males and 7.2% of females will actually go on to college soccer, and that's from the high school, for those who play the high school. Only 2% of these, so only 2% of those actually made it into the college soccer, will actually go on to play professionally. And playing professionally can mean just being rostered onto, for example, the Earthquakes as a squad player, but maybe making very limited amount of appearances. And looking at the income for a squad player at the Earthquakes, it's not even enough to live in the Bay Area. Very few jobs are enough to live in the Bay Area anymore, but that one certainly is enough to live in the Bay Area. So while this isn't meant to be all doom and gloom, what it's meant to try and do is get you to see that to be still playing at this age, you've already achieved a lot. You have already beaten out most people to get this far. That's a huge achievement to still be doing what you're doing. And the last but one question, what percentage of high school athletes receive athletic scholarships? Yes, only 2% of high school athletes are awarded athletic scholarships to compete in college. The worst thing about youth sports is you sold a dream which we know through the stats, through the research, that isn't there. We tell you at the youngest ages, stay with us, we'll make you a college athlete, we'll get you that scholarship, invest in us, and then you'll get a free ride in college. It doesn't happen. It's very rare that it does happen. Even when you do get that college scholarship, quite often it's partial. It might be that you cover books. You have to be involved in the sport for the love of it, for wanting to play. It has to be intrinsic. If we make it the adult reason for a financial reward, or whether it's being to get into college for cheaper rates, we take away the whole purpose of what youth sports is. And then that ends up taking it away from the youth player's experience. And then the final question was just for a little bit of fun, to see who was really paying attention. Who missed today's French penalty and they lost to Switzerland? Where 3 people said Ronaldo. He's Portuguese. That was the little curveball I threw in there for you. Thankfully, no one put Baggio. We retired many, many years ago, but did miss that penalty against Brazil. I think that was in Italian 90. But 65% were right. It was Mbappe. He has had a stinker of a tournament. I apologize if you did record the game, and I've now spoiled it for you. Just a little bit for you to reflect on from what we just said. We are in this disturbing cycle in new sports where we're increasing the competition and pressure on the young players. The level of play isn't improving. And unfortunately, getting players to specialize at much younger ages playing year-round. It's something which I know that we do. It's a year-round program. But it's up to us through curriculum design to make it as beneficial to the players as possible. Hence our focus on the more deliberate play methodology to keep it engaging, to keep it fun, and to give players that kind of confidence in their own decision-making and their thoughts when involved in the game. It's why we ask parents not to shout on the field during games. We need it to be about that individual player. The child is playing the sport, and at every age. So look at where you've come from on your journey so far. Just a few little quotes here about what is learning. Our pedagogy is a constructivist theory where we look to scaffold the player, a lot of support in the younger ages. We look to move away, as you've mentioned through your time with us. We don't look to shout and have players be joystick at the games. We want to see what the players can do for themselves. And it's in certain moments we step in, provide that scaffolding. And think about how you build a house. A lot of scaffold to start with, and as it gets built, take a little bit of scaffolding away. If anything needs a little bit of touching up, you put the scaffolding back, correct it, and we pull that scaffolding away again. It's where it gets its name from. And also we take an empowerment approach to our coaching. We want the players to be the decision makers. Now, if all we do say, right, go out and play, we step back and do nothing, that's a directive duty from us. That's not coaching. That's just being lazy. That's not providing the feedback that players need. Players need immediate feedback. But it needs to be player-centered. It provides them with the confidence to want to continue to compete, play, and perform. So with that, our curriculum design moving forward, I apologize for the way the presentation is coming out. Made a few edits earlier. So the way we structure our curriculum for this older age group is first session of the week for everyone is injury prevention, a few little rondos just to get the heart rate up just a little bit, flush out any lactic acid, but a lot of stretching, body weight movements, mobility work to try and prevent injuries because they have a very hectic schedule with the inclusion of high school throughout the winter. Our second session of the week is scenario-based learning, so multi-directional games, problem-based learning, more rondos, small kind of games, where we take a scenario within the game, we adapt it then into a practice, and when they go back into the game, they can take what they've learned, assimilate it to the game, and make adjustments and be the real decision makers when in the live action on the field. And then the third session is tactical development, where we look at our principles of play and we align our practice to what it is that we want to achieve. We're not a reactive program, we're proactive. What that means is we know what we're going to be doing in week 18. We got week 18, you're going to be in high school. We know what we're going to be doing in week 13. It's going to be one of our principles of play. And the way we then structure our practice throughout those 4-week blocks, we'll do a little bit of physiological conditioning, still with the ball, everything with the ball, so replicating the soccer scenario. We do a little bit of psychological work. So if it's an attacking principle, we look at the component of confidence. If it is a defending block, then we may look at concentration and communication, and we'll be aligning that to how they can use that, not just in soccer, but how they can also take that into everyday life. Why we focus so much on players, we mentioned it, is the dropout rates are huge because we don't allow players at the youngest age group to try different sports. We make it about deliberate practice. Some of you may have heard of the 10,000 hour rule, where you got to do 10,000 hour practice to become elite at a given discipline. Well, the trouble was, and Anders Ericsson has come out and actually said this as well, that was based on musical instruments, fine motor skills. It didn't really apply to invasion games. Your soccers, your rugbies, your basketballs, they need to use other sports experiences to be able to develop the larger motor skills, to be able to take something from, you look at Peter Schmeichel, one of the greatest goalkeepers, played handball. The way he would play in goal is he would spread himself, huge, massive guy coming at you with the ball, something he took from handball. And it's what we try and do. It's something, if I played Aussie rules football, and in Aussie rules football, you never play a direct pass to the player, or very rare you play a pass directly to the player, especially when you punt the ball, but you try and play it into their path. You can take that into soccer, we're trying to play vertical passes in behind the defensive line. So you can take different areas of different sports and apply it to maybe the one sport you want to continue in the future. And when they did this study with German elite soccer, world-class German soccer players, these are the ones that actually made it to that national level. Only 40% were involved in drills, the technical stuff, when you see kids dribbling outside the cones, repeatedly striking a ball into a goal, or doing all the conditioning which you see kids doing. 86% were involved in play, mostly coach-led play, but involved in play. 17% was with the coach, and within those games you can do conditioning, and it's what we use for pre-season warm-ups is small-sided games. You can challenge the short sprints. There's nothing worse than seeing kids go on 5-mile runs or doing multiple laps around the field, because you don't see that in a game. It's not continuous. It's made of multiple sprints, and even then it's position specific. But almost 70% of the time of those world-class German soccer players was you just kicking the ball around with their friends. It's what they do for fun. It's been able to nurture that love and passion for the game. So as mentioned, even though we place a lot of emphasis on play, and we still do in that U19 when we look at the curriculum structure, everything is aligned to our principles of play. We have 5 key principles in both attack and defense. So create and exploiting overloads, switching the point of attack, passing through the units, when to pass, when to dribble, and collective approach to successful play. And what we do is we look at different areas in the field, we apply that different principle of play and how we react when we attack and how we react when we defend. And all through this as well is how do players make those decisions to utilize these different principles of play. So first, can we pass through the units? Can we play centrally? Can we play through the opponent? That might not be possible. Therefore, it might be that we've got to look to switch the point of attack to go around them. Once we go around them, can we beat them in the 1v1? Are we aware of when we may need to pass the ball and when we need to dribble? So everything is always in reference to this game model and these different principles in play. And this game model is our identity. So when you take those different principles and you look at what hopefully we should see on the field, and this is a lot for a U19 player, by the way, but what it does is it gives us direction. We know where we want to go, but we need that map to get there. This is our map. So what you should see from us is when we do have possession of the ball, are we trying to play through the units, or commonly heard maybe in game commentary, playing through the lines? Can we use the ball with quick movements, creating overloads in central areas? So going 3v2s, 4v3s in middle areas. And can we create opportunities out to go 1v1? But also when they have the ball, do we show a desire to win the ball back? Are we able to prevent them from playing through us? So are we compact? Are we able to approach at angles to where they have to go around us? Do we protect the middle in front of the goal, the most dangerous area of the field? And do we take that space between the units so they're not able to play those passes which will take out high numbers of defenders? And when you break all of this down, you go all the way back down then to those individual player elements. What you started off when you were 7, 8, 9 years old, and have continued developing through the different ages. From 12 to 15 years old, looking at developing those different playing elements. So triangulation, looking to use rondos to where once you release the ball, can you then move off the ball? So knowing what you can do next before you receive the ball. So it's that speed of play, speed of thought, and your speed of action. As you can see, we break it down into outfield and goalkeepers. So we have the ball, they have the ball. We look at those different playing concepts. So within those different principles, so as you mentioned earlier, the generating the different passing lines, the types of support to be able to play through the different units, the forming of triangles to overcome opponents, that's that going numbers up in central areas. I'm not going to go through every single one because it'll take ages, but all this stuff is available to you and it is posted on our website. But again, every single practice session is in reference to our game model. And again, another reason why we ask players not to shout onto the field, because it might be that we've asked the players today, we want to see you playing through the units. We want to see you breaking the lines. We might not want to use the width because we may have been working on this in practice for that training block, 4 weeks training block. So sometimes success for us going into the game might be every time you play a vertical pass, that pass goes forward. Can you beat 2, 3 players throughout the game? Which one of your successful passes beats the most players? Was it a direct ball from centre back to centre forward? Nothing wrong with that if it's taken out 7 players and we maintain possession of the ball. Or if we've been working with the wingers or the fullbacks, did you beat your player in a 1v1? How many times were you able to stand them up, maybe get a cross in, or beat them out wide? And going back to the individual elements we look for in the players, and this is what we use as well then when we do our player evaluations. These are those individual player elements. So just a couple of them there. Look, are you able to use limited touches to dictate speed of play? So not just one touch. One touch is very high level. You want to make sure that you give a good pass to your teammate, but are you able to receive, retain it, release it in a short period of time, those quick 3 touches? Can you use repeat passes to change your body shape, to be able to see more of the ball, to open your hips? Again, knowing where you want to go next. And all this is connected. And all this is what then defines success for us. Have you developed technically? Do you feel like you have your own decisions? You're in control of your own decisions. Are you a creative player? Do you engage positively with others, your coaches, the parents on the team, the referees, an important one? Can you provide psychological support to others? So can you take what you learn in soccer and apply it to different areas of your life? Can you support your players around you, friends outside of soccer? And most importantly, when we look at statistics around youth soccer, are you still playing now? And for you guys in this presentation, you are. For the players, the parents, hopefully you're playing too. So this is our identification profile. Again, I won't spend too much time on this. That's what we used for all the different players. Again, looking at how the different patterns of research has shown what it is that we actually know. All of us soccer professionals should know this information, but we don't operate knowing this. And it drives me nuts. I often go into different rants. Travis is the poor guy that listens to my rants in the office and has to sit there for 20 minutes when I go off on a wild one. But we know this. But when you look at the culture of not just US soccer, it is predominantly in US soccer, but if you look at soccer and youth sports in general globally, we're not doing what's right for the players. And the worst thing is that we look at the youngest players as superstars, elite players. Now, if you look at an 8 and 9-year-old, we expect them to go on the field to be the next Ronaldo, the Messi, not to make a mistake. We treat them like an elite level player, professionals that we see on TV. Yet that 8, 9-year-old is going to go home that night and more than likely grab a blanket and a teddy bear to go to bed. Now, how can we expect that person to be an elite level athlete? It doesn't match. It's ridiculous. It's crazy that we continue to do it and we know better. But again, the problem is the adults involved, a lot of money involved. We're not doing what's right for the kids. And what you've noticed, the reason you guys are more than likely still here with us, those of you who've had the patience to stick at it, which is huge, is that early level of success doesn't have any form of predictor for your long-term senior success. Modestly at best, there's a slight correlation. Modestly at best, but pretty much there isn't one at all. Okay, so move on to the logistical side of it. For most of you, this is the same old, just repeating the cycle of the seasons. So our expectations of the players must be in the uniforms and practices. Again, we tried to grandfather the training uniforms, pulling teeth with some players who've been here for 10, 11 years. They never had to do it before. But it's something which is expected of everyone, presenting yourself, being part of something bigger than just a team, part of a club, you're a member of a large organization. Practice with a purpose, go out to try and be better every single time. Again, it's not about do you win your game on a Saturday, do you finish every single practice, every single game, even just feeling that 1% better. Games, make sure you're there on time. A lot of the players now at the senior ages are going to be driving. So a lot of this, again, is on them to get to the game on time. But if they're not driving, they really should be there 45 minutes before kickoff. And always show respect to your opponents, referees, and also the parents of not just your own team, but those of the other team as well. Parents, we do notice there's a big drop-off from when they were 9 years old. Fewer parents come to watch. That is not a problem at all. But if you do still come to watch the games, no shouting from the sidelines, absolutely no abuse of coaches or the referees. Like we said, you won't always know what's been communicated to players, what we've asked of them. We don't know, going back to the tree analogy, we don't know what's happened to any individual before that game. I went to one of the girls' games, it would be 2 years now, with the senior girls. I'd had my wisdom teeth taken out. And that morning, the filler had come out, so my roots were completely exposed, and I was in absolute agony. And so I was not interested in that game, to be honest, at all. Every time a little bit of a breeze, or I even breathed myself, I was in so much pain. In the end, I had to call Gav over just to try and finish it. From the sideline, it could just look as if I'm being very lazy, can't be bothered, I have no interest. We don't always know what's going on in everyone's back, in everyone's day, everyone's everyone's life. So show patience with that, a little bit of empathy with each other. So again, no shouting at referees, coaches. Um, Open up communication. Let's have dialogue. Best way for us all to learn. Make sure parking lots are safe at all times. That's more of one for youngers where they've been dropped off. Please make sure you're updating your team Snap accounts. And use me as a resource. I've actually stepped away from coaching with the teams in Fremont. So I can prioritize my time now with the coaches, supporting their coach education, but also with the parents as well, and engaging in workshops and providing better parent education. Nothing changes if we don't speak, if we don't talk and we don't share ideas and we can disagree as well. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing. Part of disagreeing, we can see another person's opinion, but also we can provide that education into why we do a certain thing. So yeah, use me as a resource, use the website as a resource. We're here to help as best we can. It is a new uniform. Most of you are familiar with how it works. You get links sent to you from my uniform. Millette is working through all the registration, so if you haven't received the link yet, it should be coming through shortly. You need 2 full uniforms, the jersey, the shorts, the socks. The jersey you can see on the screen is the new jersey for the new season. The away one is, again, same colors, club colors, a light gray. Training tops are needed for practice, along with the home shorts and the home socks. Your training top will last for as long as you fit it. If we change a color, which we may do in the future just to separate it up a little bit, give us more of an identity as we're around Fremont. If you still have the gray one, just keep wearing your gray one. That one will never expire. As far as the plain uniforms, that is per an Adidas agreement, a 2-year agreement, where the uniforms do expire. We need a new one. So you can't use last year's shorts, socks, and when you change the top, you need to get the full kit. I think what I actually did, and Adidas haven't noticed, is that we didn't change the shorts. And if we haven't, I need to confirm that. And if shorts still fit, by all means, don't get another pair. But if they're a different design, they do need to match the design agreed upon for the next 2 years with Adidas. So the schedule is quite straightforward for the Oilers. It's a 32-week plan. It's actually 33. There is one extra week thrown in there because of the way the calendar works. And also the senior teams, boys and girls, will be going up until Thanksgiving. So they get maybe an extra 2 weeks of one session a week, just because we will be going down to San Diego for the showcase. And also, obviously, if we find there's players unavailable for seniors, any players from the ID teams we've identified, will be asked to also join us on that. But we'll give you plenty of notice if that is the situation. Everyone practices Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. All sessions at Central Park Soccer Complex. As you know by now, games come out late. They come from NorCal Premier. As soon as we receive those, we'll be making sure that you get those as soon as possible so you can make your own plans. Travis will be the senior girls coach. He's been with the 05 girls now forever, since they were training pool for some of them. So he'll now be taking over the senior girls coach, and Gavin will be taking over as the senior boys coach, with Ray with the 03 ID1 and the 03 ID2. We are currently in the process of hiring more staff, so that one is to be decided. So just give a bit of a visual. This is how it works: 7:30 till 9, Mondays and Tuesdays, boys and girls, and this is for all the U19s. And the same then on the Thursday, 6 p.m. to 7:20 p.m. for those Thursdays, but you're going to be on the grass. The reason being, Flowers, we're having a little bit of an issue with the city. They're starting to give a little bit more of the facilities over to cricket. I'm not best pleased. I've had a couple of meetings with them. I'm trying my best to get us back on the turf on the Thursday. The current stance is that we get to have the Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and crickets Thursdays, Fridays, and weekends. I'm hoping that we can get the 7:30 to 9 p.m. at the minimum on the Thursdays back with us. If we can't, it may be that Thursday session from 6 to 7:20 may have to drop into the 4:30 to 5:50 due to the light. And then obviously once we lose that light, you guys are off with your high schools. If there is another field in Fremont which we can get our hands on, we'll definitely take that if there is an opportunity to be over at Central Park. But due to the numbers, we do need 2 fields on that Thursday. Team fees still the same. Only difference is it's down to 8 payments because of high school, which has been the same now for most of you. A little bit of clarity on how it works. You're not paying for the month itself. You're paying for training blocks. So the calendar is broken up into training blocks. You pay your registration when you first sign up. Your first training fee isn't taken for 4 weeks. Quite often, and some of you have noticed this with the previous season, your payments are behind on what you've participated in the program. That's normal. It happens because it's never only 4 weeks in an actual calendar month. So throughout the duration of the 12 months, as it is as a whole season, they often get pushed back just a little bit. So even though we've finished in June, on June the 17th, I believe it was this year, you could still have a payment coming out in July. That's common. You're not being charged for any time outside the program. We account for the 12 weeks that you miss when you're with high school. We don't charge you for any winter time, which we take off. So you're only actually charged for those actual training weeks. Registration is due by June the 30th. I appreciate we were a little bit late. We're getting this presentation out to you, so we can extend that by a couple of days also. Our applications are due the first week of July, hence the reason why we need such an early registration day. Because the Fremont schools are a little bit behind the rest of the Bay Area, or especially the region which we play in. So we do kind of cut it a little bit close on getting everyone's registrations in, knowing the numbers in to apply for different events and competitions. Again, you can cancel at any time. It's just 1 installment penalty for early cancellation. So if you cancel in week 11, which is the 3rd training cycle, you need to pay for those 3 training cycles, also 1 additional installment for that early cancellation. We don't believe in anyone being charged for a full season if you're not going to play in it. If you've graduated high school, then it is free. So if you've graduated high school already and you're in the area, maybe you're in college, maybe decided to go straight into working, you can still play with us for free as long as you've played with us for the 2 years previous. And as long as you did graduate and didn't drop out. We have financial aid available as well, so if fees are an issue, don't just think I can't afford this, I'm not going to play. Reach out to us, we can support you. What you will find is we're actually one of the cheapest programs in the area because everything is central. Once you've paid and signed up, we don't ask you for any more money. That whole San Diego trip, we're covering it. State Cup, we cover it. If it's a tournament available for the U19s within the Silicon Valley, we cover the costs. So you're not asked for additional costs throughout the year. We don't go to numerous tournaments that aren't even needed. The cost of travel of those goes through the roof. So everything goes central and we provide the program for you. Okay, so that kind of wraps it up. Sorry, a little bit longer than what I did anticipate. I got a little bit carried away on a few of the slides. Yeah, so registration is due by June 30th. I believe that is tomorrow, maybe the day after. I need to check my calendar. Once you register, Millette does get your information and she will add you to everything, send a welcome email and put you online for the uniforms. Any documents requested need to be sent through to GOT Soccer. Once again, they've changed the system in which we're using through US Club. That's not us. US Club have made these changes. It's now over to GOT Soccer. Most things have transitioned over and been able to populate. However, some new players will need to add different documents, or those that couldn't get transitioned over will need to provide certain documents, but Millette is going to take over on that area and provide that information for you. Season begins July 26th with the first game tentatively August the 21st. We're also going to do a few more Zoom sessions as well throughout the season as part of our parent engagement. We'll make sure in plenty of time as and when we'll be doing those. So really, thank you. I appreciate you for attending. It's huge. I think the more we can communicate with everyone, the better. This will be online, and hopefully those who couldn't make the session will look at the video of the presentation when it goes up onto YouTube and our website. And just a final thought, the reason we're all here, it's about the kids. Even at U19, I know you're starting to become young adults, but it is a quite a wide ranging age group. Ultimately, it's about the kids. Parents get a harsh rap. It's not the parents, it's the adults involved. If anything, it's the coaches, it's the directors. We're the ones that fuel the flames. We're the ones that tell you that you're going to have a superstar in the making. We're the ones that tell you have to go to every showcase in the world to not go to college and not get the scholarship. But we'll tell you we will anyway, because ultimately it also comes down to the finances involved. It's a huge industry. I believe in transparency. I believe in being very open and being very honest. This is my career path. It's what I'm educated in. It's what I like to do. But again, I do feel that we should be sharing everything that we know with the parents, the players, to make sure you know exactly what it is, the experience you're going to be getting. So again, this will be